One night I was riding my bicycle in the rain in Central Park. At that point in my life, I wore glasses, and they were fogging up in the rain at night as I was riding in Central Park, which was full of God knows what. And I was thinking, okay, I'm about to go into this new phase of my life. How can I use these gifts and experiences? How can they be leveraged to get me where I want to go? And in that dark, as I was pedaling along, my mind shifted. I realized I was asking myself the wrong question. It wasn't about how I could get where I wanted to go. It was about how I could be of service.
Hey. Welcome back to Leaders Lead the podcast. This is our Friday show. Today we got a special treat for you. We got my brother, Scott Mason. He is a international inspirational speaker. He is a former lawyer. He's one of those people I like to call a corporate runaway. Scott woke up one day and said, you know what? I'm not living in my purpose. I'm not walking in my purpose. And he changed it. He changed it at the drop of a dime, just like that. He did it. Scott is very inspirational. He's one of those people, man, I've been looking at for quite a bit on LinkedIn and all this social media, man. And the first thing that I said when I saw Scott was, oh my God, there's hope. There's hope for people to be on social media or social media influencers or whatever they call them now, to be authentic. This brother is authentic. And I tell you what, when I made the decision to do this full time, I wish I would have known a brother or had a brother like Scott Mason that could just tell me to keep going. Somebody on the outside. I got him in my corner now. And man, this man, he drops so much knowledge, just like everybody that I bring on the podcast. I spend time with them. I consider them my friends. I consider you my friend. So I'm not going to bring nobody here that I not learning from myself. All right. Let me grab my notepad because this is going to be good. Scott, welcome to the show. I ain't got my pen though.
See, that's being authentic, and that's what I like about
What's
you.
up, brother?
A lot of this stuff you said about me, I just mirror right back at you.
Oh man, I appreciate that.
I've been so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm glad you say yes, man. I know you get quite a few requests. You're a popular guy.
You are extraordinary, and I'm finding the time to be with Tony Taylor. You bring it. IT, capital, bright red, bold.
Hey, this ain't about me, man. This is about you. That speech that you gave, it was inspirational. I could see the pain, and I can also see the joy in your eyes when you said that. What was going on during the moment of that moment, that defining moment for you? What was going on?
There was uncertainty about the future. There was fear. There was also a sense of determination, though, that this feeling that I've been given this life, that I've been given gifts, that I've been given experience, but not just not knowing what to do with it, and having it just not make any sense, and perhaps the fear that it would never make sense, and that my entire future would unfold into just some spiral failure, and not just personal failure, but failure to the cosmos that gave me the things that it had and me not having fulfilled the promise that the cosmos offered me when it gave me those things. That's what was going through my mind. But there was also a determination that something had to change. Something had to change.
Wow. You said failure. And failure. Like where does that come from, man?
I have come to believe through lived experience. And by the way, Tony, this was not a way that I felt for many, many, many years. I would even say decades. That that we're here for a providential purpose. That all that we've been given, every connection that we have, every opportunity, every experience, every loss, every heartache, every bit of joy exists to further this providential purpose. Failure to me, I have come to believe, and that in that moment I began to really crystallize in my mind, was the experience of not taking that providential purpose, that place that all those things were meant for us to go, just going nowhere.
Wow. You said, the reason that I asked you that is because you said failure. And when you said that, I was just like, oh my God, like most people, like I was looking at your bio, and when I filled it out, I noticed that, dude, the characters were freaking gone. I had like -6 characters because one on the outside would say Scott Mason is very successful. I mean, you were like one of the top lawyers, and you're top lawyers in New York City. And I mean, I would say that guy is pretty successful.
First of all, Tony, one of the things I really appreciate you, I'm just saying this as an aside. I know you said it's all about me, but I want to just really preface what I'm about to say with a candid remark about you, which is something about the way you ask questions or the space that you're able to create gives the guest the ability to be vulnerable. And I thank you for that.
Dude, so thank you for saying that, man.
No.
I appreciate that. I just like I genuinely, like when I come into these, and I'm glad that you said that. And I'll say this for like all the people that are watching that send podcast invites, and they send you a bunch of like paperwork that you got to fill out, and it's just this long process, and you just don't want to. I genuinely care about the people that I bring on, so I ask questions, that I care about. It's not about the show; it's more about, damn, I really want to know that about that human, and I think that everybody else could stand to hear that, because you saying, you basically, what I hear was public success, private failure, because you weren't living up to your expectations of whatever that purpose is for you, right?
I would even say public success, private failure, existential failure.
Ooh.
And there's a massive divide, at least potentially, between the public sphere and the sphere of the existential, or the sphere of the existential, I mean. Tony, I will never forget one day when I had one of the best jobs that I've ever had, at least best from an external perspective, one that paid well, one that had a large staff, one that had a lot of prestige associated with it, one that gave me a lot of authority and autonomy, that the existential sphere and the failure that was contrasting with the external success really showed itself in a singular moment. I had a very early meeting, 7 a.m. It was during July. It was so hot. And after that 7 a.m. meeting, I got to work early, had the meeting, then decided to go out and get some breakfast at a diner across the street from the office where I worked. And when I crossed the street, I looked to my right, and there on the corner, right on the curb, was one of those metal coffee stands. And in that coffee stand was a man selling 75-cent cups of coffee to folks that were on their way into the office that morning. And I saw him take 3/4 from a customer, and then I saw him hand them a cup full of hot liquid. And when he handed them that liquid, Tony, he was smiling. And in my heart, before I could even cross the street, when I looked at him, I felt nothing but rage.
Wow.
Jealousy, fury that he was getting to live his life while I had to live mine. He got to be selling cups of coffee for 75 cents and smiling and making other people happy, by the way. That's the difference to me between external success and internal, what you call personal, but I call existential failure.
Oh, that's deep. That's deep, because again, one would say Scott was rolling in the dough and this guy was, selling the coffee. Obviously there's some kind of difference when regarding pay, but what you said was you could basically see that joy inside of him, and you wanted some of that damn joy.
Yeah, I had none.
Wow.
I told people, and I tell people to this day, that during this period of my life, and as my career ascended from there, I didn't have a soul. I'd look in the mirror, I saw a human being with fire inside. Maybe I should say not fire, brimstone.
Damn.
No soul. That's not a way to live.
Is that because of the job that you were doing?
I think it was because of the jobs and the course that I had charted for myself that I was choosing to follow through on. They weren't connected to who I was. They weren't connected to, even though these jobs all were public service jobs, or they had strong components in which they were at least ostensibly making the world a better place, they weren't tied to my purpose. And I was not pursuing them really to make the world a better place. I was pursuing them because I wanted the authority, I wanted the title, I wanted the position, I wanted to prove something to this world. Wrong motive.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was in a similar circumstance. I was working for the Department of Defense, and I was a captain in fire prevention, and it was going good. My career was going good, and had this fancy uniform, even had a government car. But dude, I was miserable because I was in the capacity of serving, but I wasn't serving my purpose. And then I went on this journey from there and kind of dove deeper into the real corporate structure outside of working for the government. And I switched from job to job. And in the moments of me switching from job to job, it was always, let's say, I went from supervisor to manager, went from manager to director, was on the way to be freaking VP. And I remember sitting in this chair, and this guy's telling me, name your salary. Because I was getting ready to leave. I had realized that I was done. Name your salary. We'll make it happen. What position do you want in the company? And I started thinking back about all those times where I'm talking to my wife, I'm talking to certain people in my family, my friends, and I'm just telling them I feel freaking smothered. And they're like, damn, dude, what is wrong with you? You have it made. And I'm like, no, I don't have it made because, well, I know this now, but I don't have it and didn't have it made because I wasn't walking towards my purpose. I didn't even know what the hell my purpose was. I didn't know what it was. I did stupid stuff. Now that I look back, brother, man, I did something the dumbest. Let me tell you something, man. I bought a Mercedes, and the first time that I bought one, I ended up buying three. I think three, every back to back.
Wow.
I didn't even like the freaking car. Okay. I didn't like it. I thought it was cool. I didn't like it. And then we had like upgraded it, and then like, man, it's cheap. You roll the window down. It just, you roll the window down, they start piercing my ears. It was just all of the stuff I didn't like about it. And I was just saying stuff like, it got the safety rating, the highest safety rating in the world, which was true, but I didn't care about it that freaking much. What I cared about, right, was letting people know that I got it, but not even like on purpose. Like on the inside of me, it was like, I deserved this, but it made me feel like shit. And I went on a journey of like purpose, and I start getting rid of stuff. My mom is like, dude, what's wrong with you? What are you going through? I'm talking about, I can get rid of my car, and I even thought about once, like, getting like a small cabin, 10 by 10 cabin, and just like being by the water. But that was just going down that purpose highway.
You're speaking my language. It's really like we were living the same life, just in different circumstances.
Yeah.
My version of that cabin, I left government work and took some time to figure out what my next step would be. I went into nonprofit work. That still wasn't really where my heart was or where my purpose was ultimately driving me. But during that period, before I went to that nonprofit, again, that same sense of misery and existential angst and disappointment in what I had created for myself and dissatisfaction with everything that I had settled in. And I remember when I worked in government, at one point, my husband and I took a trip throughout India. Wow. And one of the things that I began to do was look for jobs in India, and really thinking about it. Some of it was because India is awesome. I could easily see myself living there and enjoying it, but really being honest about that inside, that wasn't it. Maybe a little bit of it, but not really. Really, what was it? Was it India is so massive, so large. These cities, you can disappear in them. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to go to another country
and
just hide, to disappear, to be swallowed up by something and never be seen again. Damn. I didn't have a soul.
Damn. So throughout that journey, I'm glad it's interesting we're talking about this, because the name of your podcast is called
Purpose Highway.
Purpose Highway, because it's a journey. Yes. So at that moment, when you realized that you were miserable and you were starting to really like look at yourself, how long did it take for you to make that jump, and what did that look like, making the transition?
I actually had a multi-year journey and 2 career changes that had to occur before I really began to walk the true path. Initially, I went into, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the nonprofit world and worked there. And really, that was me saying, okay, let me just try something fresh in a different sector, learning and doing new things. I thought that would solve the problem. It was close to what I had done, but also significantly different. But at that base level, it was merely continuing or building on what I had already experienced, not pounding my head against the wall in such a way that I could shake myself out of this existential stupor. Then the same issues arose. I was miserable. I was unhappy. I took a step into entrepreneurialism by co-owning a manufacturing company, which was a radical step at that point. And that began to put me down the road towards my purpose. Ultimately, that particular company and what it did and the business partnership I had were not directly connected to my purpose, but it opened the doorways and began to be those first bricks on the yellow brick road, if we may, that got me going there. So when my business partner and I had, a few years later, an amicable separation, by then the direction that I needed to go and the understanding that this was my last dance, my last chance, and I needed to make the most of it was quite clear to me. I was ready to do it, and I needed to be ready.
You needed to be ready.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's good. That's good. And I say that because oftentimes, we know we might not know what our purpose is, but we know that the things that we're doing in our life, it does not align with who we want to be, who we truly are.
Yeah.
And if for the viewers that are watching this, like, you might be going through something right now and you might not have all the answers. Like, I want to tell you, like, if you're listening to the story, Scott's telling you that you don't have to have it all figured out to start walking, to start taking that journey. When I left the position that I was at, man, I had so many doggone jobs. I'm like, damn, do I put all of these jobs on LinkedIn? Right? Because I'm trying to figure out what my purpose is, but I don't want people to think that I'm job hopping, because that does not look too good. And I'm thinking that it was because of my military service and just all of the stuff that was just going on in my head. But I had took that step, or even knew that I needed to start taking some steps. So the folks that's watching, the folks that's listening, like, all you have to do is take a step. It might not be the right step, as long as it might even be a freaking step down, but at least you're not in the same position or heading towards the same direction that you were headed towards before. At least you know that now you got to get up and start walking. You got to get up. At least you have a direction. At least you have a starting point. And dude, it's beautiful the way that you said that, because it put me in the mode of, I need to make a change. It made me think about that, man. That's good stuff, Scott, dude.
And I will say this too, simply because I have to. Those looking at me may be fooled and think I'm only 26. But I'm not. I'm a little older than that, a day or two, maybe just, but a day or two older than that youthful, tender, dewy dawn of the youth. It's never too late. It's never too late. And what you're talking about, shifts and changes and mistakes and turns and all of that sort of stuff, if we view things from a longitudinal perspective, in the moment when we're making these decisions and walking through the woods of chaos and bouncing from lily pad to lily pad of job, in the long term, all of those things can and do often come together in ways that we could never have imagined. So I also really like the fact that as you're talking about finding your own purpose, you're not necessarily saying that it has to be a linear thing. In fact, you're using yourself as an example of someone who didn't experience it that way, but it all can and will come together just on its time, and not in a way that we might expect all the time, but sometimes ways that are infinitely more beautiful.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So great. We so many times think we need to take the leap, but we really just need to take a step. Yeah. And then we got another viewer, one step at a time, right? You will get there as long as you keep stepping.
Your boots are made for walking.
Yeah. I'll take that misery right now. Sorry, I had to. Oh, man. Yeah. No, he's talking about the comment where we're talking about making money and being miserable. Hey, man, it's a real thing. They say, look at some of the millionaires that were supposedly happy, right? Look at some of those folks, and they hang themselves. They do things to take themselves out of their misery. Money don't really buy you happiness. I mean, money will make you happy, but it ain't going to buy that joy, that ultimate happiness. It's not going to put you in your purpose. If used properly, it could be a tool to help you fulfill your purpose. But I don't know. I really can say this, like, from the bottom of my heart. That's one thing that has transformed inside of me. Like, money cannot buy you or replace joy. Like, it just ain't gonna happen.
I'll also say this too. Money, you mentioned money if used properly or something to that effect. one of the downsides of me having accumulated money and power and position without having done the inner work necessary to connect to my purpose was that I wasn't able to use money wisely. Now, I've never spent money wild and woolly, but I look back and the ways in which I spent money weren't necessarily related to self-investment.
Right.
Because I didn't feel the need. Why did I not feel the need? Because I wasn't connected to my own humanity. My own humanity wasn't taking this, the disconnectedness was keeping me from viewing the trajectory that I was on as worth investing in. Whereas now, connected to purpose and moving forward as you are, the necessity of self-investment as a place for my money to go has been a maximum priority. I'm so glad for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the subject of like you finding your purpose, walking towards your purpose and living and breathing in your purpose, what is your purpose? How many times can I say purpose in one episode? Purpose, 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 hashtag purpose.
We could always say meaning too.
Yeah.
Providential destiny. There's a zillion different synonyms and we'll figure them all out together.
Yeah.
So first of all, my purpose is to use the outstanding gift that I have, which is the gift of gab, or the ability to speak, project, and bring energy into the room to connect with others and to help people find that connection with their inner self in order to really bring their lives forward in a different, oftentimes unconventional direction, as well as to expose folks to movements that are out there or others who are creating pathways for connecting to meaning through their own rediscovery of things like inner spirituality and sense of ethics and even spirituality. And so I have been working historically with some small business owners, and part of what I do with them is related to operations and some hard business things. But a lot of what I do, for instance, in that work is connected with having them understand who and what they are, connecting their businesses to their purpose, and then moving forward. I'm also working on some offerings that will be more directed towards coaching people in that direction, but using my voice to get the message out and drive people to being able to walk down that path themselves is everything for me.
I like that, man. I like that. I'm always writing down the gems, man. That's good stuff. You said helping. One thing that struck out to me was helping people discover who they are. Why is that so important for us? And why is that important, like, for you? Like, what came from that?
We are a social species. Part of why humanity is the dominant species on this planet. We are the only species in the history of this planet who can alter the face of the earth itself, who are changing climate itself. We are the only species in the history of this planet who have left it and left our marks on alien bodies, other planets and moons. Part of what's gotten us there is that we are social beings. When the first humans stood above the grasslands in Africa and scanned the environment, they had to communicate what they saw with others, and they did. And communication allowed us to be able to build rafts or to be able to clothe ourselves and adapt to different environments and spread around the whole world. So why am I telling you all of that? Because connection to who and what we are inside, communicating and connecting with each other, is essential for our survival, growth, and progress as a species. But we cannot do that. We cannot communicate with anyone unless we're able to communicate with ourselves. And we cannot connect or communicate with others without those internal connections and communications. Otherwise, everything is just transactional. As human beings, there's something fundamental about our makeup that requires meaning, that requires true connection. I suspect that that thing is trust. The ability to have real trust is what enabled us to move beyond those grasslands and conquer the world. But trust, without the connection inside that enables you to be authentic, you cannot create the sort of connection that builds that trust and then lets you be able to be out there and actually effectuate change in the world once you've found your purpose. Is any of that making sense at all?
No, I'm picking it up. So the trust, does that mean, like, as far as trust in yourself, like, are we talking about like self-efficacy kind of? Or
I would say self-efficacy, yes, self-honesty, but connection with our authentic core. Because if we don't know what our authentic core is, how can we connect or communicate authentically with another? If we don't even know what authenticity is, if we don't even know who or what we are, it's impossible. You are communicating without an inner sense of connection to your humanity. You're communicating, or you're attempting to communicate authentically, is attempting to communicate something out of a void. There's nothing there to communicate, at least authentically.
I like that. I love, like, as far as being authentic, I feel like as humans, we struggle with that the most.
We do.
As far as the type of beings that we are, because you know how you can go to one state. It's like I never forget, man, going to I think I went to like Texas or like Mississippi when I was a kid, and then going back. I'm from the Midwest, so going back, and I'd be like, y'all got some sweet tea. And they look at me like, what the hell? Because you're around you're around people, right? You're around people, you start picking up their habits, you start picking up their terminology, and sometimes, depending on who you are, that can kind of like fringe on who you are as a person too. That's why I was asking you about that. I think that's important, man, to remember, to make a conscious effort to remember to be who you are, like who you truly are. Like if I was to talk to you right now, and I used all these big words that I learned, instead of just saying, hey, Scott, dude, I'm inspired by you, I said, all of this stuff, like you'd be like, what the hell? Because like it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't compute, because it's coming from here instead of coming from there. And I feel like when we're not being our authentic self, we do a disservice to the people that we're connected with, because you're talking about connection. We do a disservice to the person who we should ultimately be connected with, and that's ourselves.
I'll even push a little further than that, Tony. I'll argue that when we're not being authentic, when we are not doing the hard work to connect with our true inner selves, we're committing a grave ethical crime, particularly now. Because I'll tell you this public health crisis that we've been living through for the past year and a half, it's just the beginning. Anyone who thinks that the challenges facing humanity and our planet are going to end the minute we hit herd immunity, or everyone in the world is vaccinated, or the COVID virus becomes endemic, anyone who thinks that that's it, live in a fool's paradise. The problems that we have as a species are going to be big. They're going to make what we're going through now pale in comparison. For us to be able to solve these problems, connecting to each other to bring out the full force of our creative capital, of our intellectual capital, and then uniting to build out whatever solutions that intellectual and creative capital are able to come up with, are going to be life or death for our species, life or death. So if we're not connected authentically with ourselves so that we can communicate and connect with others authentically. Create the trust that we need so that people can feel safe being themselves, bringing their full intellectual and creative capital to the table, or being willing to bring whatever other skills they have to implement and make these things happen. And everything that is in our future is at risk. And that is why putting our future and the future of our children at risk is a horrible ethical choice. But it goes back to why I strongly feel being authentic, working to bring that out is a moral issue.
Yeah.
Not just one of personal self-development.
Oh, this is deep, dude. Are y'all picking this up? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what y'all think about this. Is some good stuff, brother.
I'm trying to keep it real because we are all connected to what's big. We like to just sort of sail in our own ship. I'm sorry, but a ship alone in the ocean, if a tsunami hits, it's flipping over. We've got to have an armada.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Why do you? I was thinking about this the other day. I think I might have been riding my bike or talking to my wife. I was like, why do you think? Because we're talking about the sickness, we're talking about herd immunity. Why do you think that this whole pandemic, coronavirus, has become so political? What do you think that's about, man? You don't got to answer it if you don't.
You asked me, I'm gonna answer.
I know you want to answer it.
You just waved some catnip in front of the.
No, you started, man. You started. I'm like, shit. Let's go there, man. It's Friday.
I will answer that just off the cuff. Now, don't hold that to me 10 years from now. I don't want to be canceled because I said something wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, and my non-binary friends, this message is strictly from Scott Mason. It does not reflect the opinions of Leaders Lead the Podcast. All right, go ahead, man. Yeah, go ahead.
We're good. We're good.
God, nothing feels better than
we just did some house cleaning.
More seriously, let's go back to some things that we just covered. Connecting with our inner humanity allows us to connect authentically with others. And what does that authentic connection do? It creates trust. Ethics are related to all of this because a social species needs trust in order to survive. So the building of trust is itself an ethical issue. Straying far from ethics. Ethics don't just exist because, in my opinion, because some deity somewhere said, you should do X, Y, Z. Ethics developed because we needed to have a social contract in place for our species to survive. However, and the social contract implies that as a species, we are interdependent.
You're an intelligent dude, man.
No, you bringing it all out of me. I'm actually possessed by your spirit, and I'm just
You're intelligent, man. You know that, right?
Putting on an act. I'm putting on a good act. I hope I'm fooling some of y'all.
Go ahead, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm being a bad freaking host.
I'm just trying to keep it real in my own little way.
I love it, man.
What does all of that mean? What do all those fancy words mean? They mean that for us to thrive as a species, we need unity. Anytime we are taking approaches to our life situations and our interactions with each other that promote division, we are acting unethically and contrary to our larger interest as a species. We, I believe, have become comfortable and have been comfortable for a long time. So comfortable that we haven't really had to face, even when situations like 9/11 occurred or some of the other larger post-World War II challenges that our species has faced. We haven't had anything that is so existential that we have, as a larger group within society, had to confront the consequences of our comfort. And when we're in a place of comfort, it's easy then to forget about the importance of that interconnectedness. And when we forget about the importance of interconnectedness, as it happens when we forget anything, it begins to slide down as a priority. We don't necessarily act with that in mind. We have chosen to act from a place that remembers the ethical and the survival imperatives behind unity. We have habituated ourselves, and by the way, all of us, I believe this in a free society, have a profound responsibility to think about our actions when we do things like vote or support political candidates or even how we spend money. And to be truly engaged thinking about these bigger pictures. We have not lived up to that responsibility, Tony, for a long time.
You don't think so?
That's why we're where we're at. Look, there have been leaders, and this I will not hold back from, and it is controversial, but I will say it.
It's the truth, bro. It's the truth.
There have been leaders for decades now that have gotten elected by finger pointing at people from other countries, at certain classes of citizens within our own population.
Hey, my partner's probably losing her mind right now. She's like, our co-owner of Leaders Lead the Podcast. She's probably like, what? Oh, no. Go.
Look, I'll use gay marriage as an example of that.
Yeah.
Was that really the biggest issue? Was that a device that we as a people chose to respond to from an electoral perspective? Over things like uniting to build an educational infrastructure, uniting to build a scientific infrastructure, uniting to build a national security infrastructure or a national R&D infrastructure to help us advance, a regulatory infrastructure that could keep some of these demons that are associated with abuse of social media and other high tech at bay. What really mattered? Were we really being responsible? Were we really, when we were pointing at this group, in that case, LGBTQ people, or that group or others as motivations for us voting against? Were we really taking our responsibility as free citizens seriously? And if we were not, we were dividing. And then comes a pandemic that required every mind, required the minds of people that were disenfranchised, that demanded a mindset of unity for us to conquer. We weren't there. The house that we could have built didn't even have a foundation. Here we are. It's not too late, but we've got work to do.
That's what I was going to say. What do you think it takes, as far as going forward?
The beauty, and I say this very carefully, because 1 out of every 500 Americans is dead from this. Didn't have to be that way, of course.
Yeah.
But the reality is they're gone. They ain't coming back. There's been incalculable Civil War level loss in the United States alone. That's not counting other countries, and they're all our brothers and sisters too.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to minimize that. But the beauty of this is, as is the case with so many other tragedies, it offers us the opportunity, particularly since we've been isolated, sitting alone for too long, to think. Early on in the pandemic, you began to hear voices. This isn't just a public health crisis. This isn't just a medical crisis. This is a spiritual crisis. This is a human mindset, a human heart crisis. I believe that. So one thing that we have to do, one thing that I ask everyone take away from today, and yes, this is big picture. Yes, this is hard. And yes, this will require discipline and work and commitment, but to sit back and say, how am I going to utilize the opportunity that this horror has presented me on a day-to-day basis? Am I going to be an agent of unity? Am I going to be there listening, or am I going to be a flamethrower? If I'm a flamethrower, if I'm a judger, you're part of the problem. You're dividing us when we need to be united. If you're saying it's hard work to be connected with who I am, to be authentic, and to help others be that way too, to listen to them, to be there for them when they need it, so that they can feel that authentic connection with you, and that we can, as a society, begin to rebuild that trust, then you're part of the problem. And so what we can do is be mindful of that. Be mindful that the solution, that the way out is through authentic connection, and act accordingly.
Wow. So what about the folks that might feel a sense of doom and gloom as we get ready to close? What are some words that we can give those folks, words of encouragement?
For too long, all of us have chosen to believe that well, not all of us, but many of us, and we've been taught this almost universally, that individually we don't matter. Every last human being matters, even those that are feeling doom and gloom and afraid. The possibility for connection is there. You weren't put here for nothing. Find out why. Find leaders like Tony, like me, who want to be here to help you find that purpose. And then when you find and connect with your inner humanity, you're going to be in a place to begin to build much deeper connections. Some of the connections you have now may leave. They weren't serving you. They weren't part of you being part of the solution, and that's okay too. But that's possible for all of us. And the day to start is now.
Today, right now. I agree. That's interesting that you brought up connection. It seems like you're really big on connection. And I was going to ask you, how do you get, as we close up, how do you get people to be more connected? Because I know you said that you were a coach. How can you help our viewers and our listeners, for those people that are like, you know what, man, Scott, like me, I need Scott in my corner. How would somebody be able to get you in their corner?
First of all, they can go to my website. I think this is a sort of answer that you want.
Team Live. Sorry.
Hi, Martin. Purposehighway.com. That is the homepage for my website, or for my podcast. However, it is also Scott Mason Central, and you can reach out to me through that, or through LinkedIn, which we're connected. They could simply look up S Mason1 through LinkedIn, or through you and our friendship.
I love it, man. This has been good, man. Dude, I've been writing this whole time, man. I want to tell you everything that you said. I love the way that you said it, man. Definitely, we didn't plan to talk about any subject, and that's what I love about this. And the first time you and I talked, I'm like, we're on the phone. I'm like, damn, man, I wish we were freaking recording. I'm like going to start recording all my conversations, but this was good, brother.
You bring it out. You, Tony, are living everything that I'm talking about. That phone conversation was great because you had done the work and you brought it on that phone and gave me the freedom to feel connected and to trust.
I appreciate you, man. Any parting words for the audience?
Never be afraid to walk down the purpose highway.
Ooh, that's good. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it, man. Hang out in my my green room while I close us up.
I shall.
All right, brother. Oh man, that was really good. I'm super blessed, man, to have so many amazing friends that's willing to come on this podcast. Like I said, I reach out to people and I have like all of these questions that go on a deep dive, and I'm just like, damn, why don't get them on the podcast because I legitimately have questions for them. And Scott was one of those people. I'm so fortunate for people like Scott, the other people that we've had on the podcast. They bring it every single time. If you know somebody that you're like, man, there's something about that person. They're such an amazing leader on the outside and an amazing leader on the inside. I want to learn about them. Reach out to them. Tell them to reach out to me so that we can learn from them together. We're at Leaders Lead the Podcast. You can check us out on any major podcasting network. I actually said that right this time. Oh, man, I think I might be getting good. Alex, thank you, man. We appreciate your support. Man, it means so much. Everybody that tuned in tonight, it means a lot. I love the engagement. I love that we're able to bring this show to you and just have it unfiltered with some amazing people. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I hope that you will tune in with us next week. We got my brother, Enrique Gonzalez. We got Tara Furiana. She is, her tag is Not Your HR Lady. She has an amazing book. I'm saying it's amazing just based off of the cover. Once you get past everything else, you're going to be like, man, this is some good stuff. It's called Fuck Your Office Snacks. Oh, man. I can't even say that like with a straight face, but fuck your office snacks. And what I think about when I think about that book is all of these companies, and y'all know what companies I'm talking about. Y'all work for some of them. They're not trying to fix some of the issues as far as with the customers and employee relations. What they're doing is they're bringing Subway sandwiches in and cookies, and they're just giving you that little piddly shit. That's why Tara was saying, "Fuck y'all office snacks. We want some change. We want some change," and that's what being a leader is about. Being a leader is about making changes, not making changes just for yourself, but making changes for everybody else. And that's what leadership is about. Leadership is about serving. This podcast is not just about leadership at work. This podcast is about leading at home. Y'all know it's been hard these last 14, 15 months. And also leading on the inside. That's what we bring our guests on the show to talk about is how do we lead on the inside? Because, if we're taking care of this, we can take care of all of that easy. Because in here, that's the hard work. In closing, I want to show you all Scott Mason's Purpose Highway.
The future has arrived. As the world and humanity itself moves faster and faster into unimaginable possibilities, old institutions that built connection and shaped our sense of meaning are falling by the wayside. In their wake, profound questions about ethics, our purpose, and spirituality demand new answers. Join your host, Scott Mason, in Season 2 of the Purpose Highway podcast. We will explore how these social changes will revolutionize our society. We will learn how they impact our own search for connection and meaning. And we will hear stories of influencers whose lives have had radical change from the inside and found profound connection to others and themselves through a new definition of meaning. The future has arrived. Are you ready?
All right. So we will be back next week, Thursday, Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll see you guys next week.